In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Fallacara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. I'm Fallacara. Today I'm blessed because I have a punk from the other side offer, Zack Varkaris. And Zack is a philosopher. I met him at RadFest, but he's a specialist in stem cell, specialist in women, specialist in regenerative medicine, specialist in everything. He's a multi-talented guy, and I was really impressed when I met him because we're coming from the same type of words. We're going in the same direction. We're preaching the same thing, speaking the same language. We understand each other, and I have a lot to learn from. So, Zack, why don't you introduce yourself to our public? It's going to be way better than if I do that, and maybe it's going to get you better service.
Well, thank you very much, John. Thank you for having me on your podcast. No plan B. I'd be lucky if I had a plan A, let alone a plan B.
You better not have a plan A.
Yeah. So you've got a plan B, you rely on it. No, but it's yes. Thank you very much. A philosopher. That's a very grandiose term for me. Wow, that's sort of something. I know I'm Greek, but philosopher.
Yeah. Well, that's the perception I had when I met you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I always had disdain for philosophers. I always think they talk a lot and don't do very much. But I mean, it's they are actually they're pretty smart generally. So I appreciate that. And I am I good at lots of stuff. They say jack of all trades. One of my lines I've always liked to say, jack of all trades, master of none. I like to think of myself as more of a Zack of all trades, master of some. So that's what I like to think myself as. And they're wide-ranging skills from science to athletics, to writing, to living. And, funny you should say it now. And I think about it. I wanted to write a book when I was young, like a philosophy of my life, philosophy of how to live life. So perhaps there is a bit of truth in that. But yes, when we met, I found you fascinating too. You can never judge books by their covers, which I think we both are very proud of being. I like that. I think it makes people read you rather than just skim the surface, which we're all guilty of in this modern day. So.
Yeah. Trying to impress by appearances. But I think you are so right. You know why we spend so much time at Rad? It's because I like people that they're not here to nothing to prove. This is you. I have nothing to prove. I'm doing my stuff and I'm doing great.
Yeah. And you can also learn from people that I think a lot of times you go to these things and they must, I got to meet so-and-so, because they're the guy. No, you can learn more from this person who's random, who happens to be there. And that's where you get your real inspiration from. You don't go to a market to grow your food. You grow your food and sell it at the market, And
you see the philosopher is there.
I think of that more like, I don't know how PR this is, but it sounds more like bullshit to me.
In the past, I've heard you never bring your food to the restaurant.
It's the market. I think it was living in LA when everyone's like, I'm coming to LA to write a script. Really? You're going to go to somewhere? You should come with something at least, Yeah. But yeah, that's what I do. I mean, I was very fascinated why you took up Biohacker magazine, why you did that. Obviously, when you told me about what you've done, which is fascinating. I just was curious to know why you're driving biohacking, because for me, that's a big deal. Because yes, I'm a scientist, and yes, I have a background in that, but I try my best to. I'm a scientist in denial. I'm always like, oh no, I'm not really, and I'm everything but, because that's how you learn. But I think now with the advent of technology, we've got this confidence of technology, of awareness, of the ability to apply that in a cost-effective way, that allows us to really make a difference on a personal level.
That's
Plus,
cool.
the laws can't stop you doing anything you want to your own body. That's the other thing I think people have to remember.
Yeah, but right. Yeah.
There's that awareness of how people are and what life is. I think people are very, I'm not a biohacker. I don't do that. Really? I don't do that, or I don't understand that. Well, biohacking is a number of things. It's controlling what you eat. That's biohacking.
Yeah, everyone is a biohacker.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and in your field of area, I think that the best biohacker in the world are women. They're biohacking since they're teenagers. They're paying attention to the food to make sure that they're aligned. They're more active than men. They put makeup and cream to make sure that their skin is hydrated and stuff like that. So they are biohackers in power more than men. And matter of fact, woman is mainly one of your specialty as well.
Yes, that way they are. We have worked on our area we are fundamentally based around the fact that, or what I believe rather, which is, well, let's go back a bit. My name is Zacharias in Greek, Saint Zacharias. Saint Zacharias is the patron saint of expectant mothers, jewelry, gift giving, and freedom, anti-slavery. He's the patron saint. And I thought it was ironic because I have children. I've never had an issue ever having children. And I've always felt that fertility is an aspect of vitality. And when you look at life, of how we are as a human organism, we're sexual and reproductive organs. I mean, we're designed to, we start off as little babies and we're the same with a few bits that are different. And then we differentiate, and men get voices and muscles and shoulders and balls drop and stuff like that. And then women get hips and boobs. And then what happens is we then spread our DNA across from each other. So the thing about it is that those areas are really designed for us to come across and spread the DNA across from each other.
Reproduction.
And that fact of being reproductively fit keeps what we have traits of youthfulness and vitality. And so that's very important. And it's very overlooked because with men, what happens is we tend to fix things, how big your muscles are, how many inches you've got, all that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, let's fix it like a machine. What we look at is the system that creates this machine. Because if you go through the cycles of life, there are periods where we go through from being a child to being an adult, puberty. And then we go through a cycle of being a young adult to a middle-aged adult to an old adult. Well, with women, as opposed to men, and it's the one time they are less complicated than men, the one time. Because they're way more complicated than we are.
Yeah, they're really happy to hear that.
And what's interesting is that they have menopause. Now, menopause only occurs in 5 species that we know of. Whales, dolphins, narwhals, and humans. So all the other ones are marine mammals. Now, why that is there's a period, there's a missing link in human evolution whereby we have an aquatic period and no one quite knows what that is. And we can talk about aliens and lizards and whatever, but there's something there, whatever it is, there's something there. But the reality is that we have the menopause. And after menopause, the aging rate of a woman is far, far greater. Bone density, skin suppleness, hair, moisture.
They're not going to appreciate that, but it's like a decline, faster decline.
It's a faster decline. Yeah, absolutely. Now with men, we think we're invincible, but actually, I hate to break to you, Jean, we fall off a cliff at 18. We're going, but we think, yeah, man, we can do everything.
I don't care. I've been skydiving my whole life.
Yeah. Just make sure you pull the chute before you hit the ground. That's plan A. So the thing is, though, that we have that, and so with women, there's this very clear rate determining step, and so it's like, well, it occurs to me, we're all living, if you're 50 years old nowadays, that's not old anymore.
Yeah,
it's like you just finished your college degrees and stuff at 30. I mean, you're just getting going, right? Yeah. So we have a choice. We either say we go back to being cave people. I was going to say cavemen, but I'm going to be more cave people now, but cave people. Or we go and say, hey, we're going to have society, biology catch up with society. So if we can have that position where we can extend that sweet spot of adulthood, that sort of functional, that fully complete functional adulthood for as long as possible, it would make sense. And it came across to me, I was working, I was a new father, I was working in a job in the finance industry. I needed to get my visa. I know. I've done a lot more than be a scientist. I've done a variety of different careers. But anyway, I was. It's funny with the world because it brings you back to your center. If you don't listen to all the stuff behind you here and you focus on the center, it brings you back to that. And we ignore that at our peril. Anyway, so I am as a father. I have, working as a job, trying to make money for the family, blah, 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 the usual. And one of the clients speaks to me about her investment opportunities and says, I want to have another child. I'm 47 years old. And I'm thinking, okay. She said, I've got a new husband. I want to have another child. I said, so how are you going to do it? And she said, well, I'm going to do ovarian rejuvenation. I said, really? How does that happen? She has no idea. I know nothing. She has no idea.
You heard about it, yeah.
Yeah. No, she has no idea that I knew anything about it. I was just asking the question. So she said, yeah, I'm working with something called PRP, which we've all heard about. So she starts telling me about it, and I'm thinking, this just doesn't make sense. It's not good enough. I said, I hate to break it to you. I wouldn't say her name, but I hate to break it to you, but you're too old for that. And she said, well, what do you know about it? And I was like, well, actually, and blah, 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 we're chatting away. And then I looked into it and saw that there was this there was this need.
Yeah.
And I sort of realized a lot of my friends who'd had problems having children, or they were having emotional issues about getting older, and they had worked so hard to get to, they'd done everything right, and now there was nothing they could do about it. And I remember there was this one of my grandparents' friends said to me, it's youth is wasted on the young. You just as you get to a certain age, your body's not in a position to deal with it. Now, that person was probably about 60 now, I think about it, which isn't that old. But when you think about it, if we can fix this, let's make it work. So as you say, women are the best biohackers. And you know why? Because women have less of an ego. And they understand that they want...
a good point, actually.
Yeah, have less of an ego. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're more team players. They're less of it. I mean, they sort of can backbite, sure. Yeah. But they admit that they got flaws. Does my bum look big in this? Do I look like that?
Yeah.
If you do that as a guy, they think maybe he's gay, or he's a real narcissist or whatever, you can't win. But so with that, there's a willingness, and okay, let's look at that. And we just found that there was a market for it, and there's something we could provide a product for that. Now, obviously, being a guy and having an ego, I was thinking about guys first, right? And I was like, oh my God, it's a lot harder to fix a guy. You can't do it as easily because we don't have such clear determining steps. We have far fewer moving parts, and there's just more complications. Without getting into the technical details, if you want, I can give them to you, but that. So with women, I saw that. And then I thought, there's me thinking I'm in touch with my feminine side. This is great. I'll be no problem. And discovered I know nothing about women at all. Absolutely.
I think that we die knowing nothing about women.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. I mean, luckily now, I teamed up with a friend of mine from college, and she is brilliant. I mean, she's absolutely fantastic. And we have a couple of other team members that all who help guide me in sort of taking the science and put together and making that work. But the thing is, though, I think of it from a practical point of view, and I think life, you have to be quite practical about some things. And the fact is that if we're going to live to 120, that everyone talks about, we're going to live to 100 years old, 120. Well, don't you want to live to 120 at the best possible way you can, and with the best faculties that you have, and be the best you can be for you and those around you. And as a guy, I want to be hanging out with chicks who aren't going to be giving me lots of grief all the time. I want to give one. It's a win-win, right? It's a win-win, and that's basically how things work. And I think also we do have differences in the sexes, and understanding those differences are very important, because there's strengths in how men do certain things and women do certain things that you can apply to the human form and the human body. And that's what we've looked at. And we've had some good successes, obviously. But that's what originally drove me. And there's me thinking, I have this child that this went poof, and this child appeared. And I realized how I'd taken things for granted that didn't exist for other people, number one. Two, I had the ability to fix it, which is good for my ego, makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
In the morning, you look up in the morning and say, hey, I like what I do. It makes you feel good. And then we also get around to playing with stuff and playing with serums and potions and boys with their toys and in the labs kind of thing. And that's what we do. And that's how I got into it.
But for you, that's a big shift from financial to science in general, and now with science indeed, because we're talking about stem cells, serums, things that are complicated, not that easy to understand or not that easy to manipulate or to use. What was your learning curve on that?
Right. Like I said, I studied marine and molecular biology at Heriot-Watt University, which is where they did Dolly the sheep or the part of the cryptid.
Oh, true, yeah.
So it's a very hardcore, college for that, like the sort of Caltech of Scotland kind of thing, whatever, the MIT of Scotland type of thing. So I had the background, and what had happened, as I was saying before, there's this focus or this fuzz. I got involved in business because I was always a wheeler dealer. But what I discovered is I kept being pulled back. I always did research on the side. I was always doing my own things on the side. I was working with converting algae into gasoline. I was involved in the environmental area for a while. And from that produced something called methoxylated glycerols, which you've heard of Greg Fahy and his freezing of rats. Those chemicals come from that. And that's what got me into longevity. So in terms of stem cells, I think the first thing is not thinking you know everything. That is the first rule of thumb.
The origin of that is Greek.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll look at the Greeks now. So, that's the first thing, is to keep an open mind. That's number one. Number two is to understand that when you change one thing, there's something else that's going to change. There's too many variables in nature.
The butterfly effect. Yeah.
Yes. So which is why we looked at fertility, because when you think about it, it is the endocrine system that controls it. It is one source stem that develops this. Now, of course, we can talk about telomeres and blah, 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 whatever. But I'm just saying that source is controllable. So we're not really controlling one aspect of it, like improving estrogen levels for an ovary, right? Oh, if you do that, what happens? How do you produce that estrogen? Does it come from HRT, or is it correctly converted inside the body from a testosterone base? Those kind of things, which people don't understand, that human beings are not quite what they seem. So we produce a lot of our testosterone by changing the estrogen that we naturally produce in our body.
Yeah,
testosterone.
Yeah, many people, they don't even know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you just put testosterone in your body, well, wait a minute, your body's not. It's like taking artificial sweetener.
Yeah. If
you're going to do sugar, do the real stuff, man. You know what I mean? Don't waste your time with this fake stuff, because it's going to muck you up, and then your body gets confused. It's like someone who tells a lie hides the truth. Someone who tells a half lie has lost the truth. It's like they don't even know where it is.
See the philosopher again. That's what I was talking about.
Maybe, I think, but I think it's Casablanca. French. He was French. So the thing is that the point is, though, that is very important. So knowing that issue, knowing those things about your limitations, makes you much stronger when you look at something. So, for instance, and also the other thing is that a lot of this stuff that we learn, especially scientists are guilty, I think. They're like the new religion.
Okay? Yeah. And science is most of the time against religion as well. That is a great paradox for society.
Well, religion is control. Science is control. We can control you, right? So the thing is that, and I'm not saying that belief systems are bad. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how it is expressed. And so very much the case of scientists believe they know everything. I'm a genius. I'm a professor at wherever. I know everything. No, you don't. You want to impress me? Spend a week in the jungle. You know what I mean? Let's see how you're going to do that, right? Let's see how smart you are then. Intelligence is so relative, but we are pre-programmed to believe that degrees and letters after your name and all these things are what make you intelligent. IQ tests. IQ test means you know how to do an IQ test, really. Let's be frank. I mean, there's some truth to it, sure. But it's so I think when you talk about a learning curve is, yes, I have the basic understanding, but then I've taken it from a much more left field viewpoint. And then I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong, and I'm willing to accept I can change. And that's, you start with that process immediately. And that changes the way you view things, because then we all do, the biggest thing we do is confirmation bias. We all do it.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you think that intelligence is more constructive thinking?
I think, applying knowledge when it's needed in the most efficient way to get the job done at any given situation. It's very long-winded, but yeah. I was making that up as I go along, but that's basically it. So in other words, if I wanted, when we did the algae farm, I was speaking to these guys. I remember they were talking about, I wanted to join their team, and they're like, well, we're all professors. You're just a bachelor's. I said, well, I came top of my class, and they're like, what do you know? I said, well, you built a 1 acre site. And how much was that? Oh, it wasn't 1 acre. It was 0.69 acres. And it was easy, $1 million. I was like, okay, great. Well, I built 0.39 acres for $40,000. And they're like, well, how did you do that? And I went, they explained it. And then like, in 7 years, we haven't come up with that. How did you do that? Can I join your team now? But the reason was I learned not from farming algae from a lab and using expensive plastics. I went to a rice farmer, a paddy farmer, a fish farmer, anyone who's worked with simple equipment, who has generational knowledge, and they can teach you more in 3 days than you're going to learn in 3 months sitting in a lab. You're just not going to learn it.
I love that approach. I'm going to just transpose it to, do you think that our medical system today, our healthcare system, is exactly reproducing what you have experienced yourself in that lab trying to get part of the team? Like, they know everything and they reject, like, our healthcare system, FDA and CDC are rejecting everything that is coming from traditional medicine or ancestral medicine. That was learned by many generations of mother, grandmothers, fathers, and child and everything. Is it the same? So our society is just like meant to be that way because we have been educated that way. We have been taught to think that it is one way or no way.
Yeah, the one way, the Catholic way, the one way. Yeah. Yes, I think there's a truth in that. I think one of the things is we're very quick as biohackers, and we're sort of, obviously you have a scientific background, and remember, we take for granted that we've been taught basic stuff that a lot of people might not have, like things like understanding the difference between, mononucleic lipids over polyunsaturates, blah, blah, whatever it is, right? Yeah. These are things that we have basic training in. I think one of the problems is that there is an institution that's developed. And yes, there's safety, and we have to have efficacy and safety, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the tail can wag the dog, because it's like you talk about the grandmothers and the mothers and the fathers and all the children and all these old wives' tales. Well, what you haven't talked about is the number of people that died whilst they were learning to practice these things. That people have got the history. Yeah. How many people have died whilst they learned how to eat the right mushroom or eat the right... Why do we have chicken? Why is chicken soup in so many different national dishes of some description or other, and it has health-giving properties? Yeah. Or turkey has got tryptophan, very good for fertility, etc., whatever they are. There's a reason why we have these things. So I think sometimes we tend to forget that sometimes the most obvious things in front of us. And the problem is we become victims of our own laws or our own rules. So when I had COVID, for instance, I was in the ICU, right? I had the Delta variant. I'm sitting in the ICU. And the first thing they're going to do is whack me full of drugs. And I'm like, whoa. What are you doing? And they're like, well, I said, no. And then I looked at my numbers because I couldn't quite see my numbers at first. And I'd been sick for 10 days. I was coughing up blood. It wasn't like I was, serious. It wasn't like I was serious. And so I saw I said, pulse rate 70? What are you talking about? That's fine. I said, no, it's not fine. My pulse rate's like way lower than that normally. And then it dawned on them that they had made an assumption because of my age and what they saw that I wasn't a physically fit person. They made an assumption. Now, what I'm saying is that it takes someone, because they follow a program, a prescribed methodology. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad. I'm not denigrating it. I'm just saying that it's not one size fits all.
No, but it's made of statistics.
Right, statistics, exactly. And once they realized that, they then changed our methodology. Immediately, I was like, so then they went back and they came back and then they were like chatting away. They wanted to put me on the ventilator. And I said, well, why?
Whoa.
And they said, well, because your oxygenation level, and they were going really low. I mean, very, very low. I mean, really dangerously low. And so I said, look, just leave me alone for 4 hours. And if give me some albuterol to open my lungs, give me a steroid shot to calm my lungs down. There's no lung damage. Leave me alone for 4 hours and I'll be, and if I'm a problem, then we'll talk about it then. But because I knew what I was doing, I could do that. It's my right. Anyone else would trust the doctor. Oh, yes, give me this shot. Give me that shot.
Well, even more than trust, they see them as God. Yeah.
Yes. And we're not gods. We're just scientists and doctors. Yeah. And so the problem was that, anyway, they came back. My oxygenation levels got up to 98. I mean, they were very low. They were below 70. They were up 70 something. They were really low. It was bad. And they were, how did that happen? I was like, I just relaxed and made myself breathe because my logic is my body is designed to handle it. Yeah. They put me in the ICU afterwards. Of course, they had to for 5 days of monitoring. And I had the blower thing. And I remember I was thinking, it's just fine here. And I saw one person basically die there, who was young. He was in his 30s, very fit, healthy. Every time I wanted to rest, they would come in and check my blood.
But that's the thing. Yeah.
I needed rest. I'd already got over the hump. Just leave me alone. Check me every 6 hours, not every 2, because I can't rest and recuperate. And don't give me a pill for diarrhea and then a pill for constipation at the same time. Yeah. Just give me nothing. Yeah. I'm not saying that I didn't need albuterol. I'm not saying I didn't need a steroid shot, but that's all I needed. I didn't need antibiotics for secondary infection because I didn't have an infection.
Yeah.
That's
even the start of it. Yeah.
So that's the issue I have with that. And I think we have got to think about some of the old school stuff that we look at. And for instance, some of the procedures that we look at the moment for ovarian rejuvenation, we're actually looking at very old techniques, like really old basic OBGYN techniques. Very simple, not highly complicated, which means that anyone can do them. Less things could go wrong, less anesthetics required. You're just taking one little small adjustment of applying the stem cells in the right proportion, in the right quantity. Like with French food is a prime example, right?
So I'm going to ask you a question now. How many people died in the process?
Not so far, 0. So far, you should see what the other guy did. No, but what I'm saying is anesthetic is very dangerous, general anesthetic. So if you can avoid general anesthetic, avoid it.
Yeah.
If you can, that's what I mean. But of course, the natural instinct is let's go full general anesthetic, full surgery suite. Let's get this person in, let's get that person in because we make some money.
Yeah.
Right. That's the issue. And so that's what we've looked at. And, when I first came up with Rejuvisite, or as we call it, Rejuvicite, I thought nothing of it. I thought, everyone's done this. Everyone's done this. Really, why not?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I discovered that no one has really done it. And then when I tried to speak to other people of my peer group, they were like, no, we don't like it. I'm like, why don't you like it?
Why? Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. This is good. I mean, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do. And then I sort of start to doubt yourself because that's what they do. And the problem then is instead of being inclusive and joining forces and expanding this to everyone wants to be exclusive. And I want to keep it for myself.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to change.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you have to come with something to market, or to the market rather, with a product that is already there and ready. You can't come with something half ready, because if you do, people change it. And your vision of what you want to do is lost. And that's important. And is that ego? Yeah, a little bit. And is that belief? Absolutely. Is that commitment, dedication to what I want to do? Most definitely. And also,
probably passion a bit too.
Yeah, that's passion. Yeah, passion is a good word. I use passion in a different way, but it's passion's a good word. But
yeah. So now I'm
curious. What's that picture behind you? That picture behind you.
You know that I collect art and street art. So this was made by a very cool street artist, and when I saw it, it's made of like from the street, an advertisement, and you can read Will Rise, because it was done by a group named The Seven Ladders. At the beginning, it was a group of street artists, and I found it very fascinating because she doesn't have any eyes. It's just like blurred. And we'll rise. We all will rise one day or the other. Like Andy Warhol was saying, we're all going to get a 15-minute fame one day. Yeah.
I should be so lucky if I get 15 minutes.
You got more than that, because I think that you became kind of known in this area of expertise. You've helped quite a few women to get, like the woman you were saying before, 47, you're too old to get a child. Now, honestly, in our society, we see many women in that age getting pregnant. And we see, I think it's Robert De Niro recently, 90 or 80 something.
76, I think he is.
78. Yeah, 78. So, and got a baby. So the mind is changing. You're helping the world going in that direction. Are you happy about it?
Absolutely. Because when people say to us, myself or the team, because it's a team now, it's a team of us. Mm-hmm. It's not just me anymore. And it's better for it. When they say, you make us feel human, you don't make me feel like a piece of cattle, or my husband and I, or my boyfriend and I, or whatever it is, that we have purpose again in our lives. That feels amazing, man. It feels absolutely amazing that, you make a difference. It makes me feel grateful for what I have. It makes me feel grateful that I can pass it on in a meaningful way. And I can do it in a way that I can pay the rent as well, and everyone's happy. It's a win-win. I mean, it really is. So do I regret it? Absolutely not. And the other thing is this, is that it takes a lot of pressure off life when you're at different stages. When we're young, the women have all the power. And then when we're older, the men have all the power. This changes the dynamic. Yeah. And not in a bad way. It just sort of takes the pressure off. I remember that when you're hitting 30 and you have all these women that suddenly the clock's ticking and they sort of go crazy of it. Yeah. And it's like people that you were like, these are really smart, accomplished women, and they don't realize they're doing it. And so, how do we change this? I mean, they've just literally, imagine you go to college, you go to high school, college, you graduate 21, you do your master's, you do a job, you're 28. And then you've got 2 years to find someone. Yeah. So it's pointless. So I think we have to accept that biology has to catch up with society, or we have to get rid of society as we know it. So they're the two options we have.
I think it's the second one.
Yeah. Well, that's plan C, isn't it?
That's my big plan.
That's the big plan. So that's something there that we look at it, and I think that do I regret it? No, I really love what I do, and I'm really grateful that I found something I really love doing. I mean, I love writing novels too, and that's
you
great.
wrote a book too.
Yeah, I'm writing another one, a science one now, but I've written novels because I wrote a novel and I did that for fun, and I got paid for it. I want to do more writing as well, but life is like buses, they never come independently. They always come in bunches.
It's true. Which one you take, you don't know. Yeah, you jump into one. Yeah.
And it's come at the same time, and I'm like, what's happened here?
Which one?
And then just as I'm getting going, the pandemic hit, this happened. But every crisis, every problem, every obstacle is a way to make you stronger. It makes you react. I mean, I can't remember. Do you surf? I can't remember if you surf or not. Yeah, right. So they've ever heard the phrase about Indonesians never win the surfing world championship because the waves are always so perfect in Indo. They're always the glassy curves, and you're like, what? And then you learn. So, when I was taught to shoot, with like a rickety gun that was safe but difficult to shoot. All these things that were taught, so that when I shot with a really smooth rifle or pistol, it was easy. I knew how to adjust. And I think that is also part of living longer. Part of longevity is understanding that you need challenges to keep you going, because otherwise...
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that approach. I think that I was on a podcast before, and they were asking me about what is life about, and you nailed it right now, life is about learning, and the purpose is one, when you find that learning brings you that wisdom kind of, or knowledge enough that gives you the confidence to keep moving forward and not being afraid of whatever is going to happen in your life. And you become calmer, more in peace, more in control, more aware. So that's probably the beauty of longevity, as you said. Yeah, you're right. Now, I want to jump back on that thing, like women turning into 30, the clock is ticking, they need to have a child. This is biological. And you brought in the society effect of the job, the family, the establishment, and whatever, buying stuff with the money you don't have to impress your neighbor that you ate, all these things. Changing the society will not change the biology, but you are a magical person there because you're changing the biology in a way. Do you think that in the future, all women will go through that type of process? Or do you think that the biology will adapt and change by itself, like Darwin would always say, like evolution of the species?
Oh, I thought this was supposed to be a fluffy question.
I told you so. I warned you before.
Can I take a step back on that? Because that's quite something I've actually thought about in depth, actually, this.
Yeah.
I think there's something weird about the way humans are designed that I believe we have a built-in obsolescence that doesn't make sense, right? If whether you call them telomeres, whether you call them the way methylation reacts on certain compounds, whatever it is, there's something about the way we're designed that we should live longer. I'll give you an example. Nerve cells, if you took out the Schwann cell, the fat bit, they wouldn't degrade for hundreds of years. DNA lasts for 300,000 years before it fossilizes. So wait a minute. Why are we falling apart at 35, 40 years old? It doesn't make sense. Even if you factor in different compounds, like skin is less strong than bone, right? It would stand to reason that would you not create a machine that would maintain that better? And therefore, by evolution, we would have a machine that would be more efficient in maintaining the weakest links in our chain. Now, the reason I say that is I think that the way that we are created to reproduce, both men and women, by the way, it's not just women. Just as I said, women are more obvious than men. Ironic, considering all of their sexual organs are inside and ours are all on the outside. I think it's quite ironic, but there we go. But the thing is that I believe that the way we're going to view life is going to change. Our perception of life is going to change, and is changing already. When you were 40 years old, your life was over, right? Now you're just beginning, You're getting, when you look at, say, boxing, for instance, most boxers were toast by the time they were 30. Now you got boxers, Bernard Hopkins was world champion at 51. I mean, he's unusual, but I can imagine that happening more and more. Even to the point of, someone in their 40s or 50s winning the sprint 100 meters, although that's not so interesting. But
104 years old, the guy that broke the record.
Yeah, but I'm just saying those sort of things can happen. And there are different levels at which you peak in your life. So I believe that we have to take a whole view, and we don't, as we say, we don't call this lifespan or health span. We call it your Freudenspanne, the quantitative effects that emotions have on the biomarkers of aging, because emotions are the oil that run our machine. And, if for instance, if you and I were watching someone and they died, right, and you were like devastated because that person saved your daughter, I was like, he deserved it because that person killed my daughter in the hit and run. We both have valid opinions, right? Yeah. But the reality is it's a relative term. So with terms of women extending their lives, I think if they know that they have the ability to plan in a more comprehensive way, it would relax them. Now, I will say this. It can have a flip side, which is like they become complacent. People become complacent. Oh, I've got plenty of time. And then it doesn't matter. And so then it's all
I'm at a party up to the age of 50 and then have a kid. Yeah.
And then, and you can do it, but there's not many that can. And also you would have to know how to party responsibly. And that means like scientifically responsibly, not morally responsibly. But I mean, in terms of that, I think though that it changes the dynamic that you can have the ability to make choices. This is the biggest change it's going to make, is that with guys, you always have the chance for a second family or a second chance. You can have, you might be an older man or whatever, but you could look at Robert De Niro. He's 78. I'm sure his wife or his girlfriend.
Kind of wealthy too and well known, so he has more chances.
Yeah, but you'll be surprised how many unwealthy people have children too at a certain old age. But I'm saying that what I'm saying is that his wife is probably, I don't know how old she is. I haven't checked out how old she is. 35, 38, 40, maybe. But imagine if you, as a woman, you made everything wrong in your life. You'd gone wrong and you had a mistake and you have a second chance. And that's what we're offering, is a second chance. And that is fair, is it not? Egalite? I mean, you know.
Egalite, French, yeah. Bringing back the level of balance. Yeah.
And that's what I think will make the difference. And I also think that one of the things is, you know, I have my own opinions on sexuality and gender, right? Which I'm not going to go into on this because I'm sick and tired of hearing about it from everyone. So I'm not going to give my...
That could have been fun too.
Well, we could maybe, you can ask me. I'll see if I might, I might not. But I think that fundamentally there's a decoupling of gender roles and sexuality. Now, for instance, everyone assumes that women are better cooks than men. Really?
Why? Apparently not. Yeah,
absolutely not. I've never dated anyone who's a better cook than me. Doesn't mean
I've never. Rare are the chefs with the star that are women.
The women,
no,
exactly.
Hurt any feelings there.
But there is an assumption that. But why is that? Because food is very much part of the community of the family, and we eat around the kitchen. Now, are women better communicators than men? Most definitely. Absolutely. In fact, men's frontal lobes grow when they have children or long-term relationships. Then we actually become more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
So these things so therefore we equate food, conversation, and familia, right? And we say, oh, therefore they must be better cooks. We're confusing the issue. And these are very interesting dynamics that we tend to ignore. Like, are men, I think they were looking at, like, are men better athletes than women? Well, proportionally, I don't think they are in the lot of sports. If you look at Flojo or Usain Bolt in 100 meters again, I think she did 10.49 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Proportionally, she's a faster runner than Usain Bolt is, even though he ran 9.56 or whatever it was. Nearly a second faster, which is quite a lot, 100 meters. Also, in terms of the way they can glide through the water or they can move certain things certain ways, they're more streamlined in some ways. Doesn't mean, though, that because men are stronger, we assume they are better. If you look at weightlifting, another prime example, I'm using physical sports analogies because it's often easier, but the most powerful pound-for-pound athletes in weightlifting are not the heavyweights, are actually the really small guys who can lift 3.5, 4 times their weight. Yeah. So these are things that we're not factoring in. And so I think that, again, when we look at these areas, if we can take some areas that are universal between men and women, are men stronger than women? Absolutely. I mean, you could get a 5-foot guy against a 6'3" woman, and even if she was a top athlete, he would still have enough chance if you got him mad enough. You know what I mean? I mean, they're really, sure they exist, but it's crazy. So I think the thing is that with women, they need to have that ability to have, and men, I think we need to understand our weaknesses, looking at our weakest link in the chain. You're only as strong as the weakest link. It's like the guy that goes to the gym and all he does is pump his arms up. Yeah, man.
Yeah, ask him to do pull-ups, he doesn't.
Yeah. Ask him to do, hang his hand from one end, and then I can't do it, But he can't even do a squat, but he can lift a lot of weight one time on the bench. Yeah. And what's the point in that? It's not functional. And I think that is, everyone has their choice. That's what they want to do. They can do that. But I'm saying that's what we want to offer, that functionality, the ability to maximize the functionality element of your life. And a lot of that's actually emotional. It's not just physical. So back to the point I was saying with regard to understanding biology and growth, okay? When you grow your muscles, right? When you grow your muscles, look at that. So when you grow your muscles break and then they reseal, right? When your brain connects a memory, it breaks and it reseals.
Yeah, everything is about new pathways. Yeah,
everything is about hormesis, break and regrowth, break and restructure. Stagnation is death. Well, it's the same principle with understanding that what causes this methodology are the emotions that direct your body to do things certain ways. And so that's one of the areas that we look at. So
interesting. Yeah, I do agree with you that emotion, and more today we are putting our fingers on that side, because we've been like, even the biohacking community, it's been like about biohacking with supplement, with food, with light, with whatever, name it. But never biohacking with emotion, except with the introduction of using meditation more and more, which is a great tool for controlling the emotion. Now, one question for you: are emotion being able to change your epigenetic response?
Yes.
How?
That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on. The answer to that is yes, but we don't know exactly. Well, that's what we're working on. That's part of what it's about. Yeah. So in other words, I'll give an example. We check for things like cortisol levels. Okay? Mm-hmm. Cortisol, as we know, is produced under stress and makes you temporarily infertile. Why is that? Oh, because you don't want to be pregnant when you're being chased by a lion or something. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, fine.
If it's a good looking lion, why not?
You can't be making whoopee when that lion's chasing you. Exactly. So that's number one. But cortisol also causes inflammation, right? And the inflammation. So if I wind you up, if I know how to get under your skin, you will have a physiological response that's inflammation, adrenaline buildup, cortisol. That changes your epigenetics. Mm-hmm. That changes how you express yourself. Yeah. So to define that is very important. Now, the reason we've chosen fertility is because we just are working on the biggest bang for your buck shot. But I mean, I've worked with a couple of guys. There's one guy who's at Stanford. He does issues with emotions with veterans from.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually do a side hustle is the wrong word, but I do a lot of work in the area of helping veterans in their homes. I mean, I even have a veteran and his wife coming around for Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Literally, yeah. And this guy's really cool. And understanding what he's gone through and how he works. This guy's incredible. He's an exceptional human being. Prime example. He had, I won't go into his military record, but it's pretty impressive. But he has COPD, pulmonary emphysema. He has taken a series of BOS and Icons to clear his throat. But I've seen someone else in the same position as him, same age, same dynamic, socioeconomic class, blah blah blah, same race, very similar, racial characteristics. The other guy doesn't want to live, and so he chooses, and you can see him like falling apart. Whereas this guy has got balls of steel, man. This guy's crazy. I mean, he's out there. And that's what I mean. I've learned from this man. Of how to focus certain things, even to this concept like that, concept. Yeah. So it's his emotions that drive that. Now, what causes those emotions, I don't know. I don't know what makes that makeup. And that's what we're learning on. So why is it that someone's son dies or child dies and it breaks them? Other people, it doesn't make them, but they persevere, right? They overcome. They might be heartbroken. Yeah. But what causes that? Is it because of who you are? Is it because of what your parents are? We like to think it's because we're self-made. Bullshit.
Well, what you actually put as emotion, I see them as mindset. What makes it different, the interpretation and the driving factor of your emotion is probably dictated by your mindset, how your mindset was built up, how your mindset guides your emotion to be or not to be, and secondary affecting the epigenetic or the gene expression. But the mindset is something that you can build up.
Yes, but your mindset is going to be different to my mindset because you might have certain things like the triggers that I don't have and vice versa because whatever, something when you were a kid, whatever happens, whatever, blah, 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 and there's a trigger. Like I have a trigger about, when people make assumptions about who you are, it triggers me because people have assumed things about me. So it bothers me. So you have to overcome that. That is mindset. But the expression is an emotion, and the emotion affects you in an epigenetic way. So hence why they look at meditation. But the thing about meditation is meditation also is very important, but there's also a physical aspect to it. Like recently I had issues with sleeping. I don't know why. I don't normally, but I just did. And it was whatever the reason. And so I was lying in bed, like wide awake. I'd go to bed. I'd wake up after like 3 hours, wide awake, not stressed. I'm not worrying about stuff. Things are good. Why am I doing this? And I'm sitting there like wide awake. And then I try and start working, and then I feel tired. Or I start trying to do something, I feel tired. So it's almost like, why is this happening to me? And I realized that there was a physical short circuit in my body. Like my rhythms were out because I'd been traveling. I was also ill. So that's a physical issue that I changed. And someone told me about, I don't know if you heard the one where you put your hands behind your head and you look to the left to ignite your vagus nerve. Have you heard about that one?
Oh, no. What is that?
So this person said to me, and this is what I'm saying, this is someone she's a lawyer, you know what I mean? Well, how would she know about it? She said, put your hands behind your head, look as far to the left you can until you start to yawn. And eventually you have to lie on your back. And then, you strain your eyes to the left. And I started to physically yawn.
Wow.
And it ignites your vagus nerve.
Wow.
And the next thing you know, I fell asleep.
Wow.
And so that's not a mindset. That's a physical.
Yeah.
But what happens is if you keep doing it, you get exhaustion, you get emotional response to the physical. So I think there's a lot of these areas, we call it the mosaic, where everything is mosaic thin.
Yeah.
It's never one size fits all. And also it's understanding who you are and what you are as a person. So when we have people that come to for our procedure, the first thing they do is they fill out a series of questionnaires and they do a mental health questionnaire, not like a 60, not like a Briggs-Myers or Myers-Briggs, but like a questionnaire. How do you feel? How do your self value? Blah blah blah. All these things. We need to get that where they are, that snapshot in time. Then we do a blood screening as well, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Standard stuff, and then we get the snapshot. We also have something called the voice box, where they can call a number and they can leave messages on their on this, and they could just like vent and scream and shout. I had an argument. And we don't often record it, but we don't listen to it rather, but we have it saved. And then when we look at their blood work and we see that there's been weight issues or whatever, we cross-reference and see if they left a message on that day. And invariably they had a row with someone. Yeah. They had a problem with their whatever it was. Blah blah blah. Something that was important to them. I would fuss if there's certain things that are not done a certain way in my kitchen if I'm cooking. Whereas someone else or my friend would say, "What's the big issue? What are you worried about?" I don't understand. I need it chopped like this. Yeah. That's important to me, right? Yeah. Right. So these are things, and this is where it becomes very. What's the word? Shades of grey. And because scientists are all about quantitative, not qualitative. It's all about the numbers. How many inches? How many? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, right. Yeah. So it's that sort of journey of the life. And that's what we are trying to bridge. That's where we're trying to bridge the gap. And I think that...
Yeah. Well, go ahead. No.
Oh, no. That's why we're trying to bridge the gap. And that's where, and it's way past what I just do. I mean, we have a bunch of us now together.
Yeah, I think that with artificial intelligence and machine learning, you're going to be able to go even deeper into those cross-link interpretation and trying to figure out that portrait that you're designing.
So talking about that, we put Freudensteiner into ChatGPT. It came up with nothing.
Well, yeah.
So we came up with nothing at all.
But you get now that you insert that parameter and you keep going, they're going to come up with something on that.
Well, yeah. Well, what it is very much so, and it's very much with that. But yeah. It's that's what it's about. So I mean, obviously, the next stage is eventually we want to do men.
Fertility for men, extending the fertility.
Well, fertility as an aspect of fertility and aesthetic. So our principles are fully functioning, fit fertility organs.
Yeah,
aesthetic maintenance.
That's the issue.
And aesthetic maintenance. Are the foundations of a fully extended life. So how you look is that really important. So how you look is how you're perceived, how you're treated. Yeah. And if I dress a certain way, I'll be treated a certain way because people make perception. Yeah. The book cover stuff, as we were talking about before, right? And so, but if I say to you every day, you're an idiot, every day.
Must be true.
Eventually, it will affect you. You might not believe you're an idiot, but it will react to you. I mean, you can look at however many cultures when they've gone through periods of subjugation, where they go through a period of either being dominated by another race or whatever it is, and you see, how they react, and it affects them.
Yeah, the self-destruction and the self-construction has a huge impact on the personality. Yeah, massive. You are so right on that. That is very cool. Actually, maybe I'm going to be 110 and I'll come to see you for fertility and putting my organs in shape when I turn that age.
Well, I think you should do it beforehand. You should always maintain, right?
So far, so good. It's nothing good.
What I'm saying is this. It's like is you maintain a little bit along the way,
True.
like you're fit. That's the best way to do it, not to wait until it's really damaged.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you get a cut, like, if you get I had an accident here where I had like 28 stitches across here, right? Yeah, you'd never guess it, right? And I've straight away maintained it, right? I'm going to fix it, right? But it was a really bad accident, smashed in, and that's really important. So don't do 110, but don't worry, you'll have plenty of wood at 110. Don't worry, that's what you need.
So what you're saying is exactly what we were saying before, is like preventative maintenance instead of corrective maintenance is exactly what our healthcare system is failing. Is doing just corrective thing, and we should move forward. And I'm very hopeful for the longevity movement, the lifespanning movement that we are leading, further span movement.
I know lifespanning.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. We're talking about one step at a time, not too hard to implement, but making your life easier to be able to live longer, fitter, healthier, whatever. That's the goal. Zack, tell me, people want to reach out to you, where they go, what they do, how they...
they can reach us at austinbiotech.com, which is, I can give you the links for that.
We're going to put it as well.
Yeah, so it's at the website. And then the best way is to fill out, there's a basic overview of what we do there. The best way is to fill out a document. There's a register interest form, which is really more female focused, although we do have men's ones. It's just if you're a guy, don't say you're perimenopausal, because, if you're not. But fill out the forms. And then someone can contact you. Someone will contact you, and we can go from there. We have the beginnings of our own channel that we're putting up.
Nice.
Which is going to be either Austin Biotech, but we're going to concentrate mostly on Freudenspanner and that concept.
Like that.
Because it's very important. Absolutely. And we want to create a community for that. And obviously, as you know, I'm starting to speak now on a lot more.
Yeah, I'll see you there in Miami. So you're coming to the Biohacking Expo in Miami. Yeah, you'll be a speaker. I'm a speaker too there.
Yeah.
Definitely hang out together, have some fun. And you know what? Lucky you are, because my audience on Instagram is 72% women. Oh, that was a great ending, because I lost you, Zack. You're frozen. You probably disconnected it.